President Joe Biden was in Georgia today pushing for voting rights bills and for eliminating the filibuster if Senate Republicans block the legislation. Take a look.
I believe that the threat to our democracy is so grave that we must find a way to pass these voting rights bills. Debate them, vote, let the majority prevail. And if that bare minimum is blocked, we have no option but to change the Senate rules, including getting rid of the filibuster for this.
And joining us now to talk about voting rights and much more are Congressman Mike Quigley, a Democrat from Chicago's North Side, Congresswoman Cheri Bustos, a Democrat from Moline, and Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, a Democrat from Schaumburg. We invited all the Republicans in Illinois' congressional delegation to join our conversation tonight, and none accepted. But we do thank you all for being back here with us. First with you, Congressman Quigley. A lot of voting rights groups are saying, well, what took him so long? Does this speech today give this movement to abolish the filibuster, or at least in this instance for voting rights, any momentum?
You know, I think it does, and he said it right? The opportunity to vote on voting rights legislation is an opportunity to choose between democracy and autocracy. And if you're going to carve out something out of the filibuster or blow it up, it might as well be for something so important as voting rights.
Congresswoman Bustos, what does it say, though, that major voting rights groups, including the candidate for Georgia governor on the Democratic side, Stacey Abrams, decided not to show up for this speech?
You know, I think it's just a way to look at throwing out fault for something. Joe Biden went down to Georgia. He took a whole bunch of our colleagues on Air Force One with him. Stacey Abrams said that she had a scheduling conflict. I think it's much ado about nothing. I think the message that we want to take away from this is just the sacredness of our elections and how we have to get this right. We now have 19 states that have passed more than 30 laws that impact in a real way everything from if you want to pass out water or food when somebody's in a long, hot line in Georgia, to something even more sinister, and that is that the Republican lawmakers can actually appoint people to replace the election board so they get the right outcome. That is messing with people's votes. And you think about it, if I go and I vote for Mike Quigley for Congress and he gets the vast majority of the votes, how dare anybody think they can come in and reverse that? But those are the kind of laws that we're dealing with right now.
And I want to get to the specifics of those issues in a bit, but first back to the filibuster, where it's pretty common knowledge that any chance for any of these bills to pass, it would take abolishing the filibuster, at least in this instance. There are many different options for doing it. Congressman Krishnamurthy, what is the most likely option that would have success?
Well, I think that in this particular case, the stakes are so high. The filibuster was primarily used in the Jim Crow era to basically obstruct the rights of people to vote. And it's being used again in precisely that way to basically prevent the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, as well as Joe Manchin's Freedom to Vote Act, from moving forward. So I think the most likely path here is to basically get the caucus, the Democratic caucus, to unanimously adopt a carve-out in this particular case to allow this particular piece of legislation, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, to move forward. I'm hopeful that Joe Manchin would be very supportive of that particular measure.
And it seems like that remains to be seen at this point. Congressman Quigley, let's parse these bills that your colleague was talking about here. First, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act versus Senator Manchin's Freedom to Vote Act. What do these bills do specifically? Look,
the thing about John Lewis is it restores some of the key provisions of the Voting Rights Act gutted by the Supreme Court, particularly pre-clearance. The other bill that is referred to as the Manchin bill, it does a whole slew of things addressing dark money, election security, and a long laundry list of just allowing people to get to the voting booth. So, taken together, it's what we have to do. I don't think one of them is enough.
And Congresswoman Bustos, you mentioned some of the laws being considered or passed at certain states. How would this bill interact with those laws, a.k.a. would this federal bill, if passed, trump some of the laws being passed in conservative and swing states?
Yeah, the federal laws, if we can pass this, would supersede all of those. And again, just for context, there are 400 state level bills that have been debated. These 19 states have passed 30 some. So those right now, just within the last year, have become law. So the sense of urgency around President Biden going to Georgia and pounding his fist on the podium is because of that. We have a real sense of urgency because we've got these 19 states that are doing all they can to get in the way of free and fair elections. And as Americans, we all ought to stand up and we all ought to do some shouting just like Joe Biden did today.
And Congressman Krishnamurthy, perhaps a more bipartisan route being talked about here is a fix to the Electoral Reform Act, which would prevent a situation like in 2020 where the former president tried to subvert the Electoral College results. Explain to us what the Electoral Reform Act would do.
Basically, the Electoral Reform Act would codify the vice president's merely ceremonial role in certifying the election. As you remember, on January 6th, former President Trump, as well as the insurrectionists, tried to pressure Vice President Pence to basically throw out the results that the voters of 6 states put forward in selecting presidential electors. And so what this Electoral Reform Act would do is basically prevent a future vice president from being able to even do that. But that's not enough. This particular reform that the Republicans are putting forward in the Senate is a start, and it's okay, but we need fundamental changes to prevent what's happening in those 19 states that were referenced before. We need to prevent voter suppression. We need to prevent basically state legislatures from usurping the role of voters in selecting their presidential electors. And we need to do whatever it takes to prevent what was attempted on January 6th, an overturning of a lawful election from actually being successful.
Congressman Quigley, does the electoral reform have bipartisan support? It would likely have support in your chamber, but in the Senate, could it get 60 votes?
You know, I just doubt it at this point in time. It's unfortunate. We have to look at the past votes to give us the best indication of future ones. You know, I'm concerned that it's going to get enough. And again, it needs to be part of a broader process here. You know, if we're going to protect our democracy, it's going to begin with these laws. And to do that, they're just going to go after the filibuster.
All right. Well, we're going to have to leave it there for now. A lot more to get to, but our thanks for now for Representatives Mike Quigley, Cheri Bustos, and Raja Krishnamurthy.